Today, I'm going to share a deeply personal and heart-wrenching story that has left a lasting impact on my life. Imagine trusting someone so completely, only to have that trust shattered in the most unexpected way. This is a tale of love, betrayal, and the journey to reclaim one's life after a devastating discovery. It all started innocently enough. My wife, Maria, was heading off to her best friend's bachelorette party, a fun week and trip to a cottage. We had a solid relationship built on trust, and I had no reason to doubt her intentions. The night before she left, she sat beside me, looking a bit troubled, but she reassured me that she just wanted to have fun and support her friend. We kissed goodnight, and the next morning she was off. The weekend passed with little contact, which was unusual, but I didn't think much of it. She came home cheerful and seemed to have had a great time. Over the next few weeks, she was busy helping her friend prepare for the wedding, often staying out late. Everything seemed normal, until one fateful day at work. I overheard some colleagues discussing a scandalous video from the Bachelorette party. Curiosity got the better of me, and I searched for the video, but found nothing. Later, a colleague showed me the video on his phone, and my world turned upside down. There, in vivid detail, was my wife being intimate with two men. The shock, anger, and heartbreak were overwhelming. What followed was a difficult journey through the legal process of divorce. Despite the emotional turmoil, I sought advice from friends and lawyers, determined to protect my interests and move on with my life. The legal battles were tough, but I held my ground, and eventually, we divorced. Maria moved out, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my life. In the end, this experience taught me invaluable lessons about trust, betrayal, and the strength it takes to rebuild after such a profound loss. If you've ever been through something similar or have thoughts on the story, please share your comments below. My wife had an affair with two men at her friend's bachelor party. It was my wife's best friend's bachelor party. They took a weekend trip to the cottage, and my wife, I trusted her completely. And without a shadow of a doubt, the night before I left, she walked into our bedroom. As I was getting ready for bed, she sat down next to me. I was in bed, and it was clear that something was weighing heavily on her mind. She shared, "I thank you for letting me go. I just want to have fun and be with my friend, who is getting married in a few weeks." Sure, it was fun. Then she leaned in to kiss me, and we went to bed. The next morning, she left early with her friends for the whole week, and we didn't contact each other often, which was unusual, but we exchanged a lot of messages on Sunday night. She sent me a text saying she was coming home and would be in the house. A few hours after she returned, she seemed cheerful, and very cheerful the next day. I would go to work, and she would go to her friend's house to help prepare for the wedding in the weeks that followed. My wife would take the time to help her friend organize the wedding. She would finish work and go to her friend's house for a few hours. This happened several days a week, and then one of the work days while I was in the office, I learned that some colleagues were discussing a video showing what had happened out during the bachelor party at the cottage. After becoming curious about their conversation, as far as I was concerned, that a video has surfaced online that allegedly depicts a woman being intimate with two men at the time. I didn't know who that woman was for the following days. I started hearing more and more people talk about the video. That piqued my curiosity one evening after work, and my wife still didn't understand home, but at this point I started searching on my computer, visiting various websites trying to find the video that had become the topic of conversation. Unfortunately, my research yielded no results. A few hours later, when my wife came home, and I asked her about the video. She had a confused look on her face, knew nothing about the video, and seemed genuinely surprised. I smiled and asked what the hell happened in that house. Unfortunately, I didn't see my wife's reaction. The next day, when I arrived at work and sat at my desk, a colleague immediately approached me and asked, "Did you see that video?" I admitted that I didn't have time to look it up. He took his phone and continued to show the exact same video that had been the subject of the discussion. I was completely confused as I struggled to process what was happening before my eyes. The images were startling as four partially uncovered men strolled into the footage. As they walked into people's rooms, the women in the back shouted happily. And then the men started taking turns dancing in front of the gathered women. At first, I laughed because I thought the festival was over. However, the next part of the video surprised me. It shows a moment when one of the men is extremely close to a particular woman, as it turns out my wife. My entire demeanor changed dramatically. The laughter disappeared and was replaced by gloomy mood. The video shows my wife starting to touch him, and another man coming up from behind and also starting to touch her. The situation escalated from there. Then one of the other men came from behind. The man lifted my wife on his shoulders and carried her to the next room, and the second man followed him. I was completely stunned. My jaw slowly dropped. Both men left the room. Followed by was my wife. She had a beaming smile on her face. At this time she was undressed. The tape ended, leaving me in the house in a state of shock, being there trying to understand what I had seen and don't know what to do next. I paused to collect my thoughts. I then asked my colleague if he could share the tape with me, and I agreed. I decided not to tell my wife about what I had witnessed. Filled with anger and heartbreak, knowing that she had become close to these two strange men without any problem, as if nothing had happened, and I didn't matter the rest of the time of the work day. I perform my tasks. One day I'm like a zombie and my thoughts are a mess. I couldn't even concentrate my thoughts after a while. However, I regained some composure and made a few phone calls, one of which was to a friend of mine who happened to as a lawyer. I asked him to advise me on the matter. Explaining the situation, he advised me to take the time necessary to consider my next steps, and said that if he were me, he will probably file for divorce. After a brief discussion with my friend, I contacted a divorce attorney to gather information about the options available to me because of my wife's infidelity, as well as to understand her potential interests in the conversation. I provided details about our situation, specifically that we don't have children, but we both own a house with a mortgage, and we both work. He informed me that if I was going to stay in the house, I could go through with the divorce and try to get my rights back. My wife left the facility. However, he warned that the process could be lengthy and success was not guaranteed. After consulting with two separate attorneys, I come to a conclusion. I was determined to proceed with the divorce for my wife and came to the decision to file for divorce the next day. No explanation that she could give would justify her actions, and I suspected that she probably doesn't even know about the video I took that night. I can't sleep due to the chaos inside me. The video played over and over again in my mind, and I struggled with disbelief about my wife's actions the next morning. I woke up around 6 a.m. without sleep, reminding me to get dressed and go to work. My wife was still sleeping, and I couldn't control the situation with her. It should be noted that there was no disagreement between us, nor did I make any advances towards her. After watching that video, while arriving at my workplace, I informed my boss that I needed some time off. Even though he sensed something, he respected my privacy and didn't pry. Then I went home in time my wife goes to work. I started packing some of her belongings along with other items. A few suitcases were meticulously prepared and placed at the door. After the packing was done, I requested my time until about 11:30. I grabbed my phone, found a link to the video, and passed it on to my wife, who obviously quickly read the thread. I initiated a FaceTime call. I have clearly communicated my decision. I informed her of my desire for a divorce, revealing that I had agreed to a divorce. Started the application process. Further told she needed to collect her belongings, she abruptly ended the call, but called back about 5 minutes later saying she was on her way home. I was informed her that when she came, I would be upstairs in my office, and I didn't want to see her. When she came home with tears in her eyes, she asked me where I got that video. I said I won't explain anything to you, just leaving. In response, she firmly declared, I'm not going anywhere. This is also my home. She also added that we were married. Kiss. You don't kick me out. In response, I have firmly established that our marriage will not last long now. She angrily called her best friend's number, explained in a shaky voice the situation and my intention, kick her out of the house, and that I had the videotape. Her best friend offered to come immediately and promised to organize support after finishing the conversation. My wife quickly packed her things and left. Immediately after, her best friend contacted me to ask why I wanted to kick my wife out of the house. To answer, again, I immediately sent her a link to a video that I assumed my wife had shown her, even though it clearly wasn't. After watching the video, her best friend informed her. I announced my intention to hire a lawyer to represent my wife and insisted that I not interfere further in her affairs. I affirmed that the matter is a private matter that only concerns my wife and myself, not her. I disclosed that I had started divorce proceedings in the following days. My wife had sent me numerous text messages and voicemails. However, I chose not to respond. Finally, I got a call from my wife's legal representative. He asked, "Do you have a lawyer?" I immediately provided him with the necessary information. Then he thanked me and ended the conversation in a few sentences. Days passed, and I received a package of documents related to the divorce from the lawyer of my wife. I carefully went through the papers and faxed them to my lawyer. I also sent my attorney an email notifying him of receipt of the documents. A few days later, I received a call from my lawyer, curious about my future ex-wife's request. I asked him and outlined the content of her request. She asked for half of all assets, including the house and one of the cars. Surprisingly, she did not ask for alimony. I informed the lawyer that her father was very rich. He owned 4 hotels and several other businesses, which convinced me that she would have full financial support. I then told my lawyer that I wanted her out of the house and her name removed from all joint documents. My lawyer warned that this might be difficult to do, but assured me that she will work out options to resolve the issue over the next few weeks. I received a call at work from my lawyer with unfortunate news, which he conveyed because her name was on the paperwork. Owns the property, so I cannot simply evict her from the house as she demands half of the house, so it seems that selling it may be a necessary course of action. He expressed my reluctant to say that I love the house and don't want to sell it. This house is very important to me because it is our first house. My lawyer admits that the final decision belongs to me, but warned me that if I decided not to sell a house, legally a battle might ensue. I resolved not to sell the house and informed my lawyer that I intended to fight for ownership in a few days. I received the official divorce notice, which means the lawsuit has begun and a trial date has been set. I went to court and represented each of you as my wife. Together with our lawyers, the judge spoke to my wife to ask her what she wanted. She clearly stated her desire for a fair division of assets, including the house and the car. The judge then transferred the matter attention to the fact that I engaged my lawyer to present my interests and intentions. My lawyer said that I was seeking a divorce, wanted her out of the house and her name removed from the joint documents. The judge turned to both attorneys, then turned his gaze to us, asking if we could agree on anything, and my wife and I exchanged looks and shook our heads in disagreement with each other. The judge went on to explain that Alabama, a state that allows both no-fault and no-fault adultery divorces, fall into the second category. Speaking directly to my wife, female judge, said that the young lady, you have committed adultery, and on the basis of that guilt, I will grant her husband divorce on the grounds of adultery. And the judge who looked at my wife and continued, ordered her to leave the house with them within 30 days. However, with your joint mortgage, all right, being in this matter, you have to deal with your mortgage lender. The judge adds, sir, she still has the option of moving back home if she so chooses. As the mayor, though, she has legal rights to it. However, if she decides to move back, she will have days to leave from the house, once again turning his attention to me. The judge further affirmed, you continue making mortgage payment. The mortgage is discharged whether through forward payment or sale. The judge asked if there were any further issues that needed to be resolved, and the lawyer said my wife wanted one of the cars. The judge turned his gaze to me and asked if that was correct. I confirmed to Judge Judd that it was true, and stated that she could indeed have one of those cars. Carbot had to pay for it herself. The judge then granted her request, allowing her to take the car. After these issues were resolved, the judge finalized the divorce about a week after the divorce. The wife, my ex, sent me a text message informing me of her decision not to move back home. Instead, she simply wanted her share in the house and was willing to transfer ownership of the house to I. I replied to her message informing her that our total equity amounted to $30,000. I mentioned that I was willing to give her half of that amount once I completed the refinancing process and settled all legal obligations. I made the commitment by giving her half of the modest equity we had in the house. A few months later, my wife's father sadly passed away, leaving her inheritance worth $3 million. She did anything from, even without her father's death. Financial security obviously is sport. To ensure her health, she tried calling, texting. I chose not to respond while I realized, so my take her back, because of money I had deliberately put in their sore attitude. Was I toward her changed? And I still have the same feelings for her as I did to this day. The cottage, still unknown with both her best friend, my ex-wife, for all these chaotic events. I'm a free man. As a man in my 40s, I'm really grateful that she and I don't have children. Thank you for listening to the story to the end. And if you like it, please support us with a like and subscribe to our channel. Write a comment. What do you think about the story?